We're live? Okay, shit.
Wait,
Okay,
my
that's
mic,
good.
my mic was muted, but I am now live as well.
Okay,
How,
tweeted, and
are,
yeeted.
how do we know if we're alive or dead?
Uh,
Uh, fuck.
yeah, I wasn't ready for that one.
We're not live.
We're not
Yeah,
live?
it's okay.
No, we
Well,
are.
now
We are.
we
Y'all-
just went live.
Yeah, Galen says we're live. With big audio. Is it too loud, Galen?
Yeah, what do you want?
Speak now. We have
Or
3.
forever hold your peace.
Yeah, we have 3 minutes before we go live.
Are we all the same volume, Galen?
Looking at
Xalavier, talk.
my
Say a thing.
audio levels, we seem to be.
Okay, cool.
I am also speaking so that audio levels can be tested.
Yeah. Visually, it looks great, you know?
Okay, fantastic.
So
So
unless-
it's on the starting soon page, so we just like chill for a bit. Maybe I don't know. How was your day today?
Did we ping our Discord and piss everyone off?
No, we didn't add everyone. We need to add everyone. Should I do it in general?
Yeah, why not?
Okay.
Why the heck not? Oh, I gotta get some other stuff up. I gotta get the theme song up.
The theme. Oh, you don't have the theme song.
What? I'm sorry.
Looking up, I have to remember the word carcinization. If that's that is it.
That is the
That's
word.
it.
So, chatting with the hottest carcinization-related podcasts and games.
Are you gonna hijack our intro?
No,
You-
that was his "I'm writing a tweet" voice.
Oh,
Yes.
gotcha.
Nick gets the Nick
We're
gets
on the same wavelength. Yeah.
Nick is Nick is also a talk while he types type.
I don't talk while I type, but I do talk while if I'm about to do a hot tweet. It's just like a grandpa, like the beach. Where's all the sand? Haha. And it's like a picture of a parking lot.
Right.
Mhm.
Right.
The slow talk.
If you have any objections, you should say them right now, because I don't know where the delete button is.
Right.
Oh, no, hit it.
Oh, you're asking us? No, please just send it. Ship it.
I ship so many things. Why would you put me in the position to ship yet another thing?
My favorite thing is
We're
watching
gonna ask about
people in chat being like, you're hot micing right now, right?
Oh,
They don't know that's part of the bit.
Yeah.
be nice to Amy.
It's the pre-show.
Only the real ones. Like, ask me about the Illuminati, because when we officially start, I can't say shit.
Oh,
okay.
How do you get
Are
into
you
the
affiliated with? Yeah.
How do you get into the Illuminati? Oh wait, I actually clicked the button. Wait, oops.
Oops. Okay.
Oh wait,
yep,
what?
Can't do it
Are
now.
we live? No. There's no music. You need to do
Illuminati
the
chat.
Shut up about
Can't
the
talk about it.
Illuminati. Did you do that on purpose, Caleb? Stream up. It's still starting soon.
We're live.
We're live.
Yeah.
Did you do the music?
Yeah.
Hey guys,
I muted.
welcome to episode 4 of Mostly Positive, the show where we, the developers at AgroCrowd, interview our game dev friends about the ups and the downs of game development and everything that comes with it. So I'm your host, Nick. I'm here with
Kaylin.
and today we are interviewing the awesome Xalavier Nelson Jr. Welcome, dude.
Thank you so much for
Yay.
having me. It is it's a pleasure and honor. I'm a big fan of carcinization. I can't wait to turn into a crab ritualistically, like every guest has up to this point at the end of the broadcast.
Correct.
Yes.
Tell
That
us,
has happened.
Xalavier, before we show your trailer, which is how we'll open up, tell us a bit about yourself and the 500,000 things you are currently working on.
So, for those who don't know me, hello, my name is Xalavier Nelson Jr. I'm a studio head and narrative director. You might know me from my work on such things as Hypnospace Outlaw, Reigns Beyond, Skatebird, or dozens of other titles, including my own games, which are things like An Airport for Aliens currently run by Dogs, Space World Organ Trading Simulator, or the recently revealed El Paso Elsewhere, which is a supernatural neo-noir third-person shooter following the vein of things like Max Payne and the Die Hard trilogy, where you are fighting through a haunted motel, floor by bloody floor, to confront your ex, who also happens to be the Lord of the Vampires.
Fantastic. And
that's a lot to take in, because this actually is my first time meeting you. And I'm imagining like running up to you at GDC and just being like, "Oh, hey man, nice to meet you." And you just, oh, so much. But you do have the fucking resume for it, and that's what we want to talk about today.
I've worked on over 50 games.
That's so many games.
That's a silly number of games.
Since when?
It might be over 60 now.
When did you start?
Game development was actually, I'm coming up on my anniversary. When did my very first game, which was called All Hail the Spider God? It was a Twine game, eons ago in internet time. When was that first published? June 29th, 2016. So we're coming up on my 5th year in game development.
We've made like 2 games in that time.
We
And
have
some people,
made 2 games in
made
that time.
one. Some people, most people in the world have made 0. If I'm being honest, between 2016 and now. So 50 to 60, I'm impressed.
I mean, in the defense of everyone else, we did have a additional 5-year hyperbaric time chamber known as 2020, like right in the middle of that. And it's really hard to make games when you're stuck in a hyperbaric time chamber.
That's true.
But I'm sure you were on like double speed.
I mean, I do really like sleeping. When I was a kid, I was like, naps? Who would want to be unconscious? And then I became an adult, and I was like, oh, I get it. I became a game developer, and I was like, oh, yeah, that's the good stuff. Non-existence. Yeah. Bring it on, baby.
Yeah, like, what do you think? What do you think, Nick? Were we on, like, double speed during the pandemic? We were on, like, 0.7 speed at best, yeah.
Yeah,
hold on, before we go any further, this trailer like really whips, and I want to show it before it becomes too late.
Okay, let's show the trailer for El Paso Elsewhere. Just announced at E3. Very hype, very new.
Ba-boom. I'm gonna mute Discord because otherwise Nick will talk through it.
Okay, wait. No, it's fun when I talk through it. Everyone likes it when I talk through it.
I hate it when you talk through it. Oh man. Well, if he approves, then I guess I have to.
All right. I'm slow though because I'm gonna be watching the stream. A strange scaffold key going down the hall. Wait, it's the bedroom.
It's extremely haunted.
So ominous. Wait,
Max at the bottom.
It's
There's a lot of narration you missed.
Wait, it's already being narrated, so I can't fucking narrate. I'll let you do it.
She's waiting for me.
Oh, should I get the script for the trailer's narration and then read it in time with the narration I'm speaking over?
I want you to just do it with like blind, like just go.
Look at that werewolf. Now it's a no wolf.
Yeah, you got it.
Dodge roll, jump backwards, man. No one's gonna even think about Max Payne after this shit. You see this? This is from Old Boy. I'm a young boy making an old boy game. Hell yeah! El Paso Elsewhere. Wishlist on Steam.
Dude, you said it right when the thing came up. Oh, you timed it.
Man, that's what I'm saying, man. That was so, like, Nick's always. Oh wait, shit! I fucked the cameras. Nick's like, let me shoutcast it, and then his shoutcasting is like, oh, he's going, he's shotgun. Oh,
it's very literal.
It's like where it's like the worst type of like melee announcer.
Yeah, it's called play-by-play.
Yeah.
Okay, there's the other guy who goes in depth, and that's you, and you're the one who actually knows what's going on. So tell us about El Paso Elsewhere. What is this game?
Are you asking Kaylin or me? Because I would love to hear Kaylin's description of the game, not having worked on it.
Yeah, I think
run it.
Yeah,
tell me about the plot. I want a synopsis.
El Paso Elsewhere is a game where you're a guy, and your ex is the lord of the vampires, and you gotta fight through a bunch of monsters and shit in a haunted motel in El Paso, Texas. And it goes all slow like Max Payne.
There it is. There's the hook.
There it is. You have slow motion.
You have to shit in a haunted motel. Yeah, that's the game.
So we have a beloved history and tradition of things in games, and we also have score chasers, and we've never really considered bringing score attack in with like Mario Party-esque mini games in a game in a totally different genre. So imagine you're fighting through this third-person shooter motel. You can switch on and off slow motion. You're diving and fighting everything that goes bump in the night, from distorted fallen angels, wheels within wheels, eyes within eyes, to, haunted suits of armor. And then you see a toilet. And you know what you got to do? You got to take a big old dump. And so you got to hit the space bar as quickly as possible so that you can get that sweet 3x X multiplier on the next enemy that you shoot. None of this is going in the game, by the way. This is all completely banter, and if any of you people pop up in the Steam reviews asking, where's the shitting mini game, I'm going to lose my mind.
I was watching Nick's face because I knew he believed you right up until the last minute.
Was that all a bit?
Yeah.
There's no shitting?
No, there's no. You don't. I don't think you take a shit in El Paso Elsewhere.
You said there was shitting, and I thought you had. Fuck you guys.
Listen, Santa is a cryptid.
Have you ever
Mario Party? You just made all that up.
No.
It's a shooting. It's Max Payne.
It does some interesting things to change it from Max Payne, including, you can ram a stake through a werewolf's heart.
I don't believe anything you say from now on.
That's a really good way of approaching any conversation with me, honestly.
You're just one of those.
You're perpetually in danger of whether or not it is a bit.
Yeah. I mean, I once followed along.
You're one of those guys.
I followed along with like one or two of Xalavier's stupid ass Twitter threads where he like forces everyone to stay up till 2 a.m. because he pretends it's a real story, and then at the end it's just a pun. So,
in my defense, I force no one to do this. I'm just really good at telling stories, and people want to see how it ends.
It might not be. I think manipulating people's dopamine is forcing them. It's a dark pattern, Xalavier.
Yeah.
Much like the critically acclaimed 2020 hit Going Under, which is all about manipulating people's dopamine flow, both in terms of its gameplay and in terms of its storyline.
Right, that's why it's meta. There's like layers of it.
Exactly. When you're self-aware, you can do whatever you want. And then when you're self-aware about your own self-awareness, you are a god. Just ask.
Yeah. Okay, that's a question.
Beau Burnham.
How do you feel about Beau Burnham Inside?
Beau Burnham's Inside is going to endure a really tragic fate because it is an incredibly poignant and personal examination of internet culture, the pandemic, and just in general being a human being who makes art. But in the process of being really, really good, it also provides a lot of relatable language and imagery to describe sensations which either haven't been described that way up until now or haven't been described at all. So a piece of art specifically about how we all are getting brain poisoning from the internet is going to provide a bunch of language and imagery which will be used for years hereafter to describe being on the internet. And that is a really interesting dynamic to capture and to be a part of, because here's a song, here's an entire set of songs about like, hey, stop using the struggles of marginalized people as a prism for your own self-actualization, and then it's used as a tool for self-actualization through the
Right.
prism of someone talking about being trapped in a hole using marginalized people's struggles for self-actualization. It is such a cool piece of art. It is sad that a thing about brain poisoning will cause further brain poisoning, and that's kind of
Fuck.
always been the way we've treated any piece of media that operate on that level. The Fight Club movie, which is all about toxic masculinity, becomes used as toxic masculinity because it provides the language and imagery to make that, to understand it in the first place.
Do you think Fight Club was as self-aware as this is? And if not, is this better because of that, or not? Because Beau Burnham seems to think that does make it better. Does that make any sense?
It makes sense to me because everyone, I think, in this recording room and also who's watching this is operating on some level of brain poisoning, and filtered through that prism. It makes sense, right? It is, if anything, I'd say the show, among other things, is about how that push-pull of, like, if I'm self-aware about being awful, it's still awful, right? But also I'm self-aware. How does that affect my audience? It is
Right. Well, because a lot of people aren't self-aware, maybe, and maybe they just need that first step, and maybe that is a net benefit.
I don't even think it's like fair to say that a lot of people aren't self-aware. I feel like most.
I think everyone knows that they're on the internet too much, right?
Well, I mean, it was kind of. I mean, that's just to bring it back to vaguely relevant stuff. Like, that is how we sort of approached morality in Going Under. Is this is going to be less about, hey, here is the problem and here is the cure, and more about, like, hey, let's share in this nightmare together a little bit. This is a cry for help more than it's a manifesto. You know what I mean?
It's. I think that to use the comparison of Fight Club and Beau Burnham's Inside, which I'm pretty sure that's the first time that comparison has been made. It's trademarked. We're doing it. We're doing it live.
Patented, copyrighted, everything.
Absolutely. Agrocap and Strange Scaffold.
Mm-hmm.
The
2021.
You have to put the date in there, or sorry, the year, or it doesn't work. The hex doesn't work. Say the true name of the patent gods. The difference between that is, like, I feel worse potentially for Beau Burnham than for David Fincher with the Fight Club example, because Fight Club is an adaptation of a work about toxic masculinity that presents it with a language understanding that people distort and misuse to go full on down the road of toxic masculinity. That's one example, and it is unfortunate, and it happens quite a bit with media.
Yeah.
For some reason, I feel that, at least for the creator, it is more painful, for example, for Beau Burnham's Inside to be used for the same aspects, because it's so clearly standing in contrast to this shallow reading of itself, or this shallow misuse of itself. We struggled with this a lot in terms of some of the reviews for Hypnospace Outlaw, to be honest.
Yes, he's bringing it back to the to On Topic. Please hit us with it.
We made it.
So I was a narrative lead on Hypnospace Outlaw, which is a Y2K era internet simulator about being a unpaid moderator on a Y2K era internet, GeoCities, alternate universe. We built an entire internet. I don't super recommend it, but it created a experience that got nominated for a bunch of IGFs. People really liked it. We still get royalty checks every month. It is what you can call a success in games. Boom. So the thing that goes through my head is, we were making this game about recognizing humanity in this setting specifically through the prism of being an unpaid moderator. As part of this service, you get a dictate to like take down a whole bunch of copyrighted images, and most of those copyrighted images, you can beat the quest without doing this, but the easiest way, and the first one you find, is like it's a bunch of kids have actually, like, a kindergarten teacher put her kids' drawings of a copyrighted character in the world named Gumshoe Gooper up on her site, and you can flag those for copyright infringement. And you get a lot of money, and you get money every single time it happens. And then it's like, well,
then you can just
she had 6 content violations, so we can also report her and/or take down her entire page for her kindergarten. Because again, she broke the laws technically, and that kind of even presenting you with the choice and interaction of going through the mindset of, are you going to buy into the etiquette of your corporate overlords that they may or may not even buy into themselves, is something distinct and intentional that we had at the center of the dev process. We wanted to present a digital world in a very human way.
it's
and then-
Papers, Please on dial-up.
That's such a... where were you when we needed pull quotes?
Sorry. Well, I haven't played Hypnospace. I've seen a lot of it, and I will not apologize for it, because game devs should not have to play every other game dev's games to be cool.
I mean, it's questionable.
You think so?
Like-
I think it's just like too much to ask.
He
I will
played.
always...
He played your game, Nick.
That,
I sure did,
You
Nick.
don't have to. I appreciate it. You did not have to.
I played Hypnospace.
Oh yeah, Kalen did, and we're the same entity, really.
Kalen's a real one.
Oh, I hope not.
And because it's part of the Kalen Nick hive mind, both of you played it.
Right.
Yes.
Aggro Crab as a corporation has played Hypnospace Outlaw.
Yes,
In all
that's what
seriousness.
matters.
We're entitled to
every-
official stances.
I actually
Every-
made. Oh, go ahead.
I was just going to say, every developer doesn't have to play every developer's game.
Right. No, but so I wanted to say, because I haven't played it and I didn't know that that was the premise. I actually, this is so much less important than your game that actually fucking won IGF awards and all that. But I made a.
I win an IGF award because we
Not-
released in this the year of Lucas Pope,
I'm sorry.
Return of the Obra Dinn.
Oh, you got Lucas Pope is your supergiant.
Yeah.
And you know what? Can't even be mad. Like I'm
No,
so
exactly.
glad about the thing, about what it accomplished, what it continued to do for his career support. One of the most vibrant indie voices in games to continue doing stuff his way with independence and with verve. It is just real interesting seeing yourself in like 5 different categories, and then by the end of the night, like Return of the Obra Dinn is just like beating the holy hell out of Kratos from
So
God of
many.
War, and you're just
Yeah.
like, you know what? That's rad. Run out of speeches to give for accepting rewards. This is the good stuff.
Yeah.
You know, if there's one, if there's a silver lining, you can rest easy knowing that the Obra Dinn is definitely never gonna come back.
I mean,
Shut up.
we joke about
You had your tweet.
Sorry.
Shut up.
I actually
No, I
have-
had one more thing I wanted to
Oh,
say.
go for it, go
and
for
then
it.
a new question. Okay, so
No.
I made a. So I went to school not for video games, but for it's called Human-Centered Design and Engineering, which is a bullshit term, but it's basically UI UX school at UW. That's where I met Kalen. And for my senior project, or one of them, I didn't want to fucking make a UI, but I had to like comment on the these same digital paradigms, whatever the fuck. I made a game called Flagged for Removal with that same mechanic. It took a week, and I made it with like asset store stuff. But you're like a guy in the future where everyone has AR glasses, and like the whole world just has like an AR graffiti scape over it, where people are just putting up images over like city buildings, and you're like the guy who takes stuff down for community violations. But there was no like incentive for doing it. You just get to like look at, oh, the wall says Trump 2020. Do I want to take it down? And it's just like, go for it, King.
and
So
that
you
was,
stole my idea.
I the game started development in like 2014, so like technically,
I stole your idea. Of course I did.
I should get your degree, so I'll expect that in the mail. But the really interesting thing is like we create this story that exists on multiple layers. We try to bring a really human perspective to it, and then we get this series of reviews, which is like you're an internet cop, both for like just as a descriptor and also for good and ill about the game itself. And you can't really control how that reaction is going to go. But being so self-aware about our subject matter and trying to approach it with so much nuance and seeing even people who had never played the game being like, F this game where you're an internet cop, that does affect the dev team for the thing. Because it is taking that central message or whatever else, or even if you just like lean into the joke unironically and being like, haha, I love taking down these kids' posters. That, and then you go on to start a, hey, let's sue every child on DeviantArt who's put up a Pokemon thing inspired by Hypnospace. I hope that hasn't happened, but that's the kind of reality distortion that especially affects the self-aware creator, I think.
For sure.
And it's something that to bring it full circle, it is a thing that for Beau Burnham's inside, I hope he can avoid and or have a healthy feeling about, because I don't think that we've heard the end of it, and we probably won't have heard the end of it for several years to come.
You do need to 100% going under, you do need to do a quest where you kill everybody involved in a union. So, I would hope for that sort of, I would hope for a global self-awareness around that. It hasn't come back to bite me yet.
Have you had anyone be in your Steam forums or whatever else, just like really like, man, I really loved that quest about busting a union?
I have not seen that. I have seen people who like didn't want to do it and were annoyed that it was not optional, and I was like, good.
Really? Wait, really? I've noticed nothing. I just haven't been paying attention.
Yeah.
I do it with no qualm because I treat Going Under as just like a beat 'em up with no comment. Like I just kill monster.
Yeah, it's not. It's
dopamine.
It's not political or anything, you know. It's
Never.
Kinda,
No.
We try not to really make statements with our games, you know.
The only thing you make statements about is what indie games you've played and how you don't need to play them again, actually.
Right.
And weapon durability.
Dude, Nick has the worst takes on Twitter. He said the other day that like Souls-likes, there's no such thing as a 2D Souls-like. And I swear to God, like I don't even think he has a reason to say these things. I think he wants to stir shit.
I'm just trying to introduce new ideas. They don't have to be right, but like we can have the conversation.
Yeah.
Nick, have you become the Joker yet, or is that?
I'm working on it. Yeah. Yeah, catch me by the end of this game, and
yeah,
I think Kalen will become the Joker at a much faster rate.
Oh, certainly. My Jokerfication is well on its way.
Jokerfication.
I have a new question for you, Xalavier. You strike me as someone, just like as a person, both on your like online presence and now that I know you in what passes for real life these days, you strike me as someone who is kind of eternally hyped about his own shit. You are your own biggest hype man, and I'm someone who has struggled with this in the past. I think a lot of indie devs do. There's like an air of self-deprecation that you see a lot of indies go through. Is that something that you feel like...
It's cool.
Yeah, and it's actually like very uncool. But it's like... I think people think it makes them seem relatable. But if you say your own game's bad, people are probably going to think it might be bad, as it turns out. I was curious if that is something that like you feel like comes naturally to you. Is that like a skill you've cultivated? Is this all like a mask and you're gonna go cry as soon as you're off camera? Like I am curious to see your insight into like that, how big of a part that plays in like being a creator.
For me, I'd say one of the most valuable pieces of being an independent developer now came from previously being in the journalism world. So I had a very weird entrance into games. I started out as a 12-year-old pretending to be an adult so I could become a games journalist. There's several people who probably employed me or
God.
supplied me with things illegally. I'm not going to rat them out. I'm not a snitch.
No.
And the interesting thing about being in the industry that long is, and also being perpetually afraid of everybody on the internet, not just finding out that you're a dog, to use the old New Yorker meme, but that you're actually a 12-year-old child. Even though it may be blindingly obvious, I don't know how many people actually knew. We're going to get off of the 12-year-old thing. The thing that I had the chance to observe, especially in the later part of my journalism career, is just how devastating any appearance of weakness is. And I got to see this personally when I started to become, in an even more effective manner, when I started to become a developer. The presentation of vulnerability and need can also be the thing that loses you jobs or that has people put you in a box, unfortunately. So I had this really interesting experience of seeing people who were like in active suffering, who just needed a break, kind of saying online, hey, my stuff is really good, but no one sees me. And seeing how that did not inspire people to rise up and be like, I'm going to see you. But instead, someone being like, man, no one sees this person, huh?
Yikes, yeah.
And that isn't limited to games. That's a sense of human nature. Everybody loves a winner. People tend to be very this is why you'll see this really interesting thing for celebrities, especially, where if you have been in a Marvel movie, people will send you a whole lot of free stuff. You can make an entire wardrobe just out of the free stuff you are sent. And that's just one area of your life. Don't talk about the free tickets to sporting events, free flights, people who want to even just be people who will send money to you just so that they can feel the sensation of sending money to someone who's important, who matters. Matters being in quotes.
Oh, I watch a lot of Twitch streams, believe me, that's real.
Exactly. So, applying that to a career perspective, I am genuinely hyped about so many of the things I've worked on, so many of the things I have done, and so many of the collaborators I've had the incredible opportunity to work with. I am thankful to God every day that I get to do what I do and do it loudly and boldly. And I am also very aware that not being loud and not being bold and not being positive is a choice. For every comment that says, we so appreciate, you talking about your struggles with mental health, for example, if you're someone who speaks about your mental health, there's going to be someone in a boardroom who goes like, this person, we'd love to work with this person, but they tend to they tweet a lot about struggling with finishing things, and do we want to give that person a publishing deal? Even if that's just the invisible cogs working in someone's brain, it is kind of terrifying how much, as human beings in various positions, we almost are put in a position to not be able to afford to be our full, vulnerable, exposed selves, but must instead present this image of someone eternally on the come up, someone eternally with their best work in the near future, and something that you want to be
there.
Okay. I was just using on the come up as an amateur. No.
Is that still
But-
your status?
I think it is.
Oh
Am I on the
no.
come down yet? I mean, I don't think so, but it seems like there's some baggage attached to that now.
No. So it is. It is something I will always appreciate and applaud the people who are um, honest about what they go through.
Yes.
But I do. Uh, I think that and also not sharing that is not inherently dishonest, and I have seen personally the effects over and over again, the unfortunate effects of uh, how that being a part of your brand even can end up cutting off opportunities.
Well, I even think there can be a balance. Like, someone can
Absolutely.
be more relatable, or and that's not even the point. Someone can express themselves negatively online if they need to vent, and I've seen there's cases where I see that and I'm like, oh, I'm sorry to hear that. But there's cases where I'm like, their whole thing is complaining, and I just like, I, I've seen that for people who's I'm looking to hire, and you're right that it has that exact effect. I want to, I'm looking for winners. Um, but I don't think doing. I think it's when you just do that is when it becomes a problem, right? If you balance that with the positivity, uh, then
I
that's
wouldn't
a
even
better thing.
use.
There's also a real. I mean, there's also a real sense of like, I mean, there's a difference between being honest, and I mean, like what I feel like Xalavier, what you're kind of saying is that the lines are increasingly blurred, right? But like ideally, there is a difference between being open about your personal life and your personal struggles and kind of conflating that with your work. Like it's not just it's not just an issue in like people being honest about mental health, for example. It's that you see that turn into self-deprecation in their work and in their uh, you know product as well if it's a game that they're selling. um,
I to bring it all back, I think that I am my biggest hype man. One, because I do genuinely believe in the work that I'm doing and that like people want this and you're going to be excited about this announcement that's coming in 12 hours, 11 hours, 10 hours, those countdowns I do. That's honestly a genuinely really cool thing and I'm excited about that, but I'm also very aware that the that either not giving yourself a voice or having the narrative attached to your voice not be under your own control or being defined by one of misery or struggle, it ends up putting you into a thought box eternally for some people. Um, this is something that I worry about in terms of the frequency with which I announce and release projects. To be completely honest, I take a lot of very specific pains and intentional steps to enable the type of things that I do and the way that I do them while also being a healthy and sustainable human being. Most people do not believe that I get like 8 hours of sleep about a day, but I do. And the fact that there is people who see me as like overworked or on the brink of burnout, people have said that to me. People have said that
Wow.
about me to my face. I've heard like secondhand that kind of thing. It is one of the most existentially distressing things you can find because it is someone looking at whatever image you have presented and then making a judgment. We're doing this all of the time about the media we see, about the people that we see, and that type of recontextualization and that internal storytelling that people are doing, not just in their own lives, but about the people and things around them, is something that I'm constantly aware of for whenever I make my work and whenever I talk about it.
right, because I mean that's not something that is part of your public intentional brand like whatsoever, and just based purely on just the number of things you take part in, people are making this sort of assumption and seeing you as like the person from like a cyberpunk movie who has like 4 arms to type on 6 different keyboards at once. It's because
You're
that's
the,
how
the Joplin caffeine.
that's how they project. Yeah, the caffeines. That's how they project, I guess, themselves into that situation potentially.
Oh, he's making so many games. He must be crunching. But
Yeah, and
no.
so I think the big lesson to take from this is that human beings, whether they're aware of it or not, or even if whether they embrace this or not, are storytellers, and they're constantly telling their own stories and the stories of the people around them. And the more you can be intentional with how you present yourself to be cast in these stories, the more you can find yourself participating in that process as opposed to being at the whims of it.
I actually think about that all the time. Just like making your own narrative. And I think Aggro Crab does it pretty well. I think we at least don't leave much vulnerability. If like it's kind of in the name.
Much like a real crab.
Much like a real crab. Well, there's a weak spot to every crab.
You can just pick up a crab from the
You can attack it for massive damage. But people don't know where ours is yet. And we get this.
I can't decide what does the most heavy lifting there yet.
No, there is no yet. Lulu, if you clip it, take out the yet.
People don't know
It's
where
over.
ours is. Period. Exclamation point. That's actually like
We don't have one,
find,
actually.
I find this conversation so valuable with y'all specifically because so much of Aggro Crab is this very intentional hype presentation. Like, I feel like you are on the verge, both as a brand and potentially as people, of like pulling out a phone and being like, epic hype gang Aggro Crab!
Right.
What?
I mean, that was the goal of, from the start, is to be, I guess, like,
Construct an identity.
yeah, and be that kind of indie, almost like rock star, in a very like
We're
fake.
just biting Devolver. I mean, let's just be honest.
Not really, because people don't know who.
You're snipping Devolver, though.
People in Devolver don't make themselves public, as such.
No. Right.
Like we were pretty clear from the get-go that the two of us wanted to be the face of Aggro Crab. Like we wanted to partake in that brand.
And now Lulu is the face, and there's nothing we can do about it.
Right, now Lulu's eclipsed us, but until that point where we hired someone much funnier than us, that was the idea.
And you know, I love that you made that an intentional part of your process because that for most indie developers, and I'm seeing this change a bit, which I'm thankful for, that process isn't intentional. There's people who like have these diametrically opposed goals. Like they just want to be left alone and not perceived, and they want to bring their work in the world. But
Yes.
also they want the recognition and the attention and the love and the eyes for good and for ill, and those two things war in their members, so that if they get the eyes, they're uncomfortable because they actually want to be in the darkness, or if they get the darkness, they actually feel like they're languishing in obscurity and choosing. Like it's a super valid choice to be like, you know, I don't want to ever risk my family being doxxed, so I am going to make games, and maybe they'll get publishing deals, or maybe they won't, or maybe I'll work in a AAA company, and I'm not going to be a face. And then there's people, like the absurd people in this room, who are like, hey, there is upsides and downsides to being a face. And if I can take that on intentionally, and tank that psychic damage on purpose, maybe it won't hurt as much.
Right, and I mean, when it comes down to, like, that struggle exists in everyone, even people who are, like, very public-facing. And certainly Nick's a little more gung-ho about putting his face out there than I am. Like, I've gotten more...
Even then,
I've gotten
like,
more
there's
used
a
to
reason-
it, but I'm not the kind of person who is, like, pulling out his phone to, like, feed a squirrel at the park and make a TikTok.
Oh.
But, like... we decided early on, right, that it's not just a part of, like, who we want to be in this industry and in the world, but it's also, like, a core part of making Aggro Crab sustainable, is building that kind of a brand where we are open.
And, that's, like, I saw that Game 2 is apparently happening, which I'm so stoked about.
Game 2 would not have happened if we didn't have a brand. Sorry, interrupting, but...
No, like, I was just basically saying the same thing. If you were just a developer who had put out, like, a critically acclaimed thing that also did well commercially, but also came out on the same day as Hades, you would have had an exponentially harder time, if an impossible time, getting that next game funded. Because that is the downside and the upside of visibility. Is there's people who want to be part of the Aggro Crab story now.
Absolutely. Right. It was actually, it's like been incredibly vindicating to step into the funding phase again. Only this time people aren't just saying, hey, I like what you've got as a product, or I don't, or it has X flaws with it that we need you to change. They're saying, we believe in you. We believe in Aggro Crab as a brand and as a force moving forward. And so that's been an incredibly powerful feeling that I really did not feel like we would hit this early in Aggro Crab's lifetime.
We had people sliding into DMs, and that was like,
I haven't had to like been in a position where to continue to take care of myself and the people I love, like been in a place of desperation of having to apply to jobs, or for 3 to 4 of the 5 years that I've been a developer, because like people reach out to me and it feels like cheating, even though I know the very intentional steps and ongoing work that I take to make sure that is a potential thing that can happen.
It's one of the most empowering feelings, I think, especially in like a creative industry, to feel like you no longer have to prostrate yourself at people's feet, like in order to receive like security.
Partially because crabs don't have needs. They can't even genuflect if they wanted to, which
right.
is sad.
I bet they could find a way.
Crabs always find a way.
I actually I can't think of a way in which to like gracefully connect this, but it's a problem. It's a question that I really want to ask. So when you look at an airport for aliens currently run by dogs, which we actually have not even talked about for a second yet, but
no.
Even though it just came out on Steam and Xbox Series X and S.
Yeah, that's the connection. Actually, you were talking about how rapidly you. Oh, okay. I thought it was on Switch.
I got a connection,
and I got so gaslit when I looked at. And by gaslit, I just mean I was wrong about a fact. But then I looked on the Switch store and it wasn't there, and I was like, did Xalavier lie to me? But no, I was just I entered the Nelson Mandela dimension. Sorry, the question I was going for is, I don't even know if you see a difference internally, right? But for like the standard consumer, I feel like there's a stark difference between something like Dog Airport Game, which sells itself as more of a B game, if you will, right? Like honesty about its kind of low production value. You know what I'm saying? It's very... And there's a lot of heart there that I think few games offer with that sort of scope that game has. When you release something like that, and then mere weeks later, you're showing off El Paso Elsewhere, right? Which, while it's still a game with a retro aesthetic, is much more of a hey, we're showing this on the E3 show floor. Like, this is going to be a game that, like, gets us the fucking deals.
Capital V video game.
That's the perception from the outside, and I was kind of wondering, like, do you see that same sort of distinction in your work? And is that, like, are there differences in that kind of production and the way you approach marketing them, I think, especially?
I think the key piece here in terms of even how Strange Scaffolds, which is the name of my development label, micro studio, whatever you want to call it, we've been using in the term development label, is perspective. The thing I always come back to, at least in terms of my goals for my work as a creative director, especially, is portfolio and not project. One of the reasons I'm really proud of An Airport for Aliens Can Run by Dogs, aside from the fact that it's this thing that has made a deeply surprising amount of people cry. It got reviewed by the friggin' Guardian, and it's stock photos. Stock photos in a 3D game world.
Yes.
A universe of simulated airports run by stock photo dogs. Like, one of the things I'm really proud of there is that I've seen those sort of like quirky indie gems get some interest and then take 6 years to come out, because the development team is like, oh, we gotta make this perfect, we gotta make this work, I'm gonna mortgage my house, I'm going to put everything into making this succeed. And when you make games with that mindset, it doesn't just put you in a position of potential failure in an industry which inherently does not care whether or not you succeed or fail, because tomorrow on Steam there will be some other indie outlier that does well anyway. They don't need you. It also puts you in a position to have very limited definitions of success. So An Airport for Aliens Can Run by Dogs sold well, did more than break even. The critical reception was amazing. We've been streamed to thousands of viewers. We have a speedrun community. Like,
Hell yeah.
we've had a stunning reception to the game, and it's good done, especially in terms of breaking even, much better than a lot of indie games, which I'm very thankful for. But it also didn't light the tills on fire. And
What do you mean by that?
What I mean by light the tills on fire is it did not make. Light the tills on fire is like there's so many people trying to buy your thing that it sets the store counters on fire. Like they're ripping it off the shelves so fast.
Yeah.
Flames everywhere on the side of my face, to paraphrase the fantastic film Clue. Dog Airport game did well, but did not light the tills on fire, and because it did not take 6 years of our lives, and also an aggregate of $400,000, including mortgaging a car or a house or something, that can be a visible success for us and a internal success for the team, and it's just a source of it's just a revenue stream now that we can port elsewhere and or just like keep where it is, and it pays for pizza and or like Switch Pro when they announced that. I can get a Switch Pro with Dog Airport game money. That is a definition of success that we are allowed to have because we did not risk everything on a single project. We made that game in less than 2 years. And it's got dozens and dozens of dogs and unique bespoke story quests and 6 open world hubs. Like, we made something. I'm really proud of the production process that allowed something of that kind of scale and scope to also be made in a reasonable human way, where we crunched for very little of that project in aggregate.
We focused on the important parts, and everything else.
We identified the important parts.
Yeah.
We planned for those. We intentionally said how much we would put into this project. And as a director and producer and multi-hat wearer, I was always making decisions to bring us to that release point. And the reason for that is I don't need my first game or my second game or even my third or fourth, fifth game to be a massive Steam conquering success. I'm intentionally saying I would rather put 10, $50,000 games as just like a pull number you out of the ether into the world than one $500,000 game. And it's a really weird thing to explain. And there's people who disagree with me for various reasons, and I totally respect and acknowledge that. But it does mean that when we look at something like Dog Airport Game or El Paso Elsewhere, and the intersection between these things, we can afford to have also a studio approach that says, you want to pay attention to our Twitter account and our Patreon next month and the month after that and the month after that, because we're always doing something interesting, exciting, and new that comes from the same place. As opposed to also the other indie problem, which is you've made a giant, massive success. You want to do something new.
Go dark for 3 years.
And also
everyone
start
forgets
from scratch.
about you.
Maybe maybe your audience who really loved someone else's game 1, they don't like game 2. And that means that you're starting an entirely new audience again. Especially if you don't have a pre-established brand. We saw that land for the Rogue Legacy devs, and that was heartbreaking. Because Full Metal Furies, that's a really interesting title. But it's diametrically different than Rogue Legacy 2, and they didn't have an established brand coming into it aside from we made Rogue Legacy. And that put them in a position of like having to start from scratch and even having people acknowledge that work.
Right.
Yeah. But that's so hard because not everyone wants to make sequels.
Exactly.
But you gotta, I want to try something else. I got my audience.
There's a lot of parallels to how we approach like project design at AgroCrab. Not full parallels, because Going Under was very much like a $400,000 project that would have probably lost us the company if it crashed and burned. But like
wouldn't that have been ironic?
Because crabs can't burn. That's the joke.
Right. They can boil though.
Yeah, totally.
But how we approach, there's parallels both in terms of how we approach our brand, not just as watching numbers go up and counting that as success, but seeing the brand as part of our consistent fallback, where it's like, if a project underperforms, we have an identity to fall back on and can still get people excited about the next thing. Ideally, obviously, it's a lot better if our games are bangers. And also, just in terms of how long we want to spend on the games, like in Going Under, we were like, hey, we aren't going to spend longer than 2 years on this game before its initial release anyway. And so how do we make that project happen without killing everyone involved? From the simple assets in Going Under to the very kind of budget cutscene setup that we did in order to just let me go wild and make the narrative content without much input from the art team. And we made those decisions not only because it was good promotionally, like it's good when you announce a game and it comes out not 5 years later, but 1 year later. But also because we wanted a place to come back from if it didn't overperform, And quite frankly, it didn't overperform, right? It was it's on a larger scale than Dog Airport Game, but Going Under did well and was very well reviewed, but it didn't light the tills on fire. We can't self-publish our next game or anything with the money from Going Under. But we have that brand to fall back on. People are excited for the phrase Game 2 from AgroCrab, which is fantastic. That's where you want to be.
But that's us crafting that narrative to go back to come full circle. I was like, okay, we gotta call it Game 2 because we can't talk about this game for the next year, but people can't forget about us. They have to stay hyped, right? Game 2, okay. talk about it from time to time. Yeah, chat saying Game 2 Pog. And even the narrative on why Going Under wasn't successful. Yes, people figured it out on their own that we launched the same week as Hades, but we also pushed that narrative. Not to like be mean to Supergiant. We love Supergiant, but it's just kind of funny to be the underdog and to be like, curses. I don't know, right? Like, it's like, why not? If people are gonna think about you a certain way, why not dictate it?
Yeah, or at least attempt to. I think that's, and we're talking about this like this is a wild innovation. I think it is very honest and necessary to point out that it's not. It's only fucking video games, excuse my French, that says that overperformance has to be the normal. That
Right.
says that, hey, that puts themselves in positions over and over again where overperformance is the point, as opposed to any of these other metrics of success. We have even things of going back to like Turner Broadcasting, that massive conglomeration that owns like frickin' AOL and like telecommunications companies and brands. They, in early 2000, start Adult Swim, and they give a bunch of weirdos a lot of money to make weird stuff. And here's the thing, it's a lot of money split into like 12 different things. And then you end up with Aqua Teen Hunger Force being on t-shirts worn by stoners around the world. And that one Aqua Teen Hunger Force pays for all the rest. And also all the others are brand builders, and all the others raise or incubate creative talents. Every other industry has, depending on the individual approach to the creator and the commercial conditions under which the work is released, space for people to make bad things, mediocre things, for even at a corporate level, putting a variety of bets into a variety of places. Blumhouse puts out a bunch of horror movies every year, most of which can be fine to interesting to mediocre to straight up bad. And if they release one Get Out, their stock goes through the frickin' roof.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
And it's only games that in our hubris and arrogance says that can't work here.
It's because everyone entering indie games for the past decade was raised on Indie Game the Movie.
Do you fit into that definition?
Me?
No, Xalavier. Did you
I
come in off Indie Game the Movie?
I didn't come in off of Indie Game the Movie.
I feel like I
came in. I very specifically didn't come in with dreams of stardom because I had the opportunity to see the opposite. So near the end of my journalistic career, I ran a column for PC Gamer for 2 years called Inside Development. When I pitched it, it was called Making Games is Fucking Hard, but it was changed for unknown reasons, which will be a mystery to all involved for all of time. And the point of that column was every month I would interview a bunch of developers about mundane things and pieces of their works and lives. How does a camera work in a video game? That's easy, right? How does a dialogue box work? Easy, right?
Right.
And every single month, be able to compress somehow into like roughly 750 words why game development is a magical and also deeply painful thing at every single stop of the process, including things that we have done as an industry hundreds to thousands of times before. And every month, I talk to incredible creators whose works maybe had never been seen before, let alone seen in a magazine. People who, they were telling me they were under NDA, so I couldn't print what they were saying anyway, but they had to tell the story of someone, of an enormous disaster, or being at the brink of disaster and something comes out of left field, like not releasing on the same day as Hades, and saves them. The idea of games, of Indie Game the Movie, I think it's still, like, as far as especially presenting an underdog story, it still has value, and it was an exposure to the world of this nascent scene. I'm certainly not one of the people who was against it. But one thing I think is really important to acknowledge is that, like, yeah, I literally, from my perspective, it's grown out of not being able to believe Indie Game the Movie, because I started at 12 and now I'm in my mid 20s, and so many of the people that were my peers at the time, or who were making fascinating games, or who I didn't know but like saw as like heroes, gone, disappeared from the internet, failed, went super hard into things like Gamergate and became awful people. Like, the illusions attached to this industry.
The old guard.
Not even so much the old guard, but very specifically, if we're talking about a gacha game, and there is a 0.02% chance you'll get this character. So many things in our industry, from the things that we see as successful to the people who deliver our GDC talks, wonderful speakers, wonderful talks, but there's so much success bias that you watch Indie Game the Movie and think, I can be that 0.02%. And I never had the opportunity to build up that resistance. And now I've become a diehard advocate for developers, old, new, and everything in between, in terms of their career life cycles, saying, we just decided that it had to be this way.
Right.
You can change that decision at any time. You can be different. The games industry is like if the film industry was like, why would we make things in color when all these people like black and white movies? That color doesn't make money until a color movie comes out. Right. In a similar way, so many of our rules, especially for such a young medium, are not rules at all. So let's give ourselves the space to explore what's the other possibilities of our mediums and creative careers can be.
And we can only have that space to explore if overwhelming success isn't the expectation.
Isn't the expectation and isn't the standard.
The standard, right.
And there's certainly still value to be gained from listening to people who have crushed it and had that level of success, but to act like they have the secret sauce is, I think, mentally and spiritually toxic, and also just wrong.
It also strikes me, it strikes me in terms of how often the people will explicitly tell you, don't do my thing. So, like, one thing I realized is when I would watch more GDC talks than I do now, I would see over and over again from people who had crushed it and had incredible amounts of success say, we spent 4 years figuring out what our game was, and then we found what the fun was, and then we spent another 2 years making it. We would never do this again. And if it does happen again, it's because we really messed up. Don't follow us. And you would hear that kind of story over and over again.
Yeah, all the time.
And someone would look at that, and in the audience, and in the comments, there'd be people being like, I will make Firewatch.
Right. This inspired me
a good idea.
Do exactly this.
Why would you tell me otherwise?
So even if you don't say that you have the secret sauce, someone will look at you and be like, AggroCrab, they've got that secret sauce that makes people believe that they have a brand. I'm going to release this the same day as Battlefield 2042 and say, look at me, I'm the shooter that came out, Battlefield 2042 came out!
Oh, guys. I hate that.
I know.
There's someone looking at your brand right now and taking the worst lessons from it, and I'm so sorry you had to discover this way.
Oh, God, they're just going to pick another sea creature, and it's not going to work at all. Oh.
Don't
do it, guys.
Squid.
If you do it,
Squid.
You can't blame us. There is a
talking to you.
brand called Rage Squid. They made Descenders, which is a fantastic game. So
they also made Action Hank, critically underrated.
Yeah, it's not our fault that Rage Squid is a thing.
Xalavier, I remember talking to you last month before you announced El Paso Elsewhere, and you were just in constant terror that they were going to announce like a Max Payne remake or something akin to it, because you were like, if we can get this, if we can pull it off to be like the people to do this first, to be at the head of this revival, it's going to be fucking sick. And honestly, like, it is fucking sick.
We dodged a bullet. Jalen, can I talk about the...
What? I don't know what you're talking about. I'm scared. Don't spoil the game.
No. The game that we didn't make.
Oh, yeah. So Devolver, or did you want to talk about it? I want to talk about it. It's my idea.
You talk about it.
We came this close. I'm going to talk about what Game 2 isn't. We came this close to greenlighting a third-person shooter called This Gun Kills Wizards.
I remember you telling me about this.
And first of all, it would have whipped ass. It was a cool prototype.
It whipped ass.
We'll post footage at some point.
Mm-hmm.
But then second of all, it's a good thing we didn't, because then they pulled up Devolver publishing Wizard with a Gun. So the Wizards got the guns first. And that would have been a disaster.
Would have been awkward.
Would have been awkward, to say the least.
That is, yeah, that was where I was. It was Devolver specifically I was telling you about. I was like, okay, if Devolver or New Blood announce a third-person shooter in the vein of Max Payne before we can show the really cool stuff we've done here, that as we make more and more of the game gets further and further from Max Payne, right? Mm-hmm. Like, I started out wanting to make Max Payne. Now I want to make El Paso elsewhere.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's the mark of a good spiritual successor. When you're like, if someone came to you tomorrow with the license, I would say no, because like we're making something really compelling and different and new and interesting that meaningfully extends what we loved about the original. But I was in mortal terror that if Devolver or New Blood or some other person with that kind of brand and with that type of ability to suck air out of the room announce the same thing, it would, at the very least, kill the momentum of our project. Mm-hmm. Because forever after, we would be compared to, hey, Wizard with a Gun, this gun kills wizards, got announced right after it. And you would forever be compared, that the link would be always made.
Yeah.
Right.
And sometimes links are good, but not that this wouldn't have been.
Yeah, especially with the titles. Like, it could have even resulted in legal stuff you don't know. And this is another great example for, if you have 5 years into This Gun Kills Wizards, that seeing Wizard with a Gun come out can feel like the world is ending.
Yeah.
Yep.
And I think that that people deserve the opportunity, given how fraught creative work and creative careers already are, to make more things in conditions that I think people deserve the opportunity to make more things under conditions that do not feel like the world is ending, because so much of games feels fraught in this exact regard.
Yeah. I mean, Cat, Talia.
Cat time!
So, Xalavier, I will confess, like, I do have the brain rot in me that thinks I can make it and make that one fucking hit game. I have this mentality where we're all pirates on the grand line of One Piece going after the treasure, right? Like, and one of us is going to get it, and the rest of us are along for the ride. And it helps me. I think it's fun. Like, I like that narrative. But we still build aggro crab in a sustainable way that fucking keeps the lights on and doesn't make me have to eat the same 7-Eleven burritos that they're eating in Indie Game the Movie.
Unless you want to.
Yeah, unless I want to. And in which case,
maybe those burritos slap.
Maybe they do. But I need vegetables sometimes, and rent, and all these things. And we do a pretty good job of doing those things, but I also think that every 2 years I am rolling the dice and seeing maybe this is the time I don't have to get a publisher anymore. This is the time we did it, and we win.
I will say, if you need Rent, you can get a copy of Rent the movie on eBay for $5.75 with free shipping right now.
All right, thanks for the interview. It was really great having you. No, I have more. I have a little more. We'll wrap up shortly, but
Can I post into chat this link to rent DVD, the movie widescreen 2-disc special edition
Only
Rosario
if you're an
Dawson J.
Amazon
Diggs?
affiliate and you're getting a cut of that.
Well, it's on eBay, so.
Oh, okay. Well, rip. Speaking of all that, so when you were talking about like how we're not like the movie industry that will actually fund, mid content and not treat everything like it's the the big thing. I thought of Devolver because I think they do that. Is that fair? I think they do a decent job of that compared to a lot of other folks. And I don't think indie studios do that, but I think publishers more so have the opportunity to. Would you work with a publisher?
I think it would all depend upon the very specific conditions of, in terms of the deal. Because speaking in terms of like what we built, like Strange Scaffold is basically a publisher. It just happens to all publish my own games. So we have, spirit of transparency, about 8 projects internally, 2 of which are done and just like waiting for whenever we want to release them. They're small things we can just release whenever. And then we have Dog Airport, which we just released, and Space War, which comes out soon. TM, sooner probably than you think. And then we have just the slate of other things. And like, we have our own marketing apparatus internally. I have a lawyer. I have an accountant. I've built up all these.
Then you are a publisher.
Yeah, I've built up all of these like structures so that like when I come into a publishing meeting, it makes it kind of awkward because they're like, "Well, we can handle porting for you," and I've managed now several porting processes across consoles and localization processes, and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. That mean that there's very little that outside of just like pure money, unattached to anything, like non-recoupable, that a publisher can offer our processes internally, because we also just like ship a bunch of stuff. So someone interfering with our production process, for example, you usually have like a producer over you in terms of publisher, would, if anything, potentially interrupt the special sauce and magic that makes our games go. So one thing that I do think about very distinctly in terms of what a publisher relationship would mean for Strange Scaffold is a partnership as opposed to a publishing relationship. I love being the person who pulls off biz dev deals and makes interesting things happen. I love honestly seeing like from the beginning of a project to the end, having my fingers in a bunch of pies and being able to define the voice of that game and how we can not just make it a more interesting experience for players, but also make something that's more reasonable and easier for the dev team to create invisibly. So we're sitting here like not crunching, flourishing, moisturized in our lane, and meanwhile, no people would suspect that Dog Airport game would absolutely be a game that takes far more time, energy, and money than it would take otherwise, especially for a sim ship console and PC next gen exclusive release. So we would consider a publishing thing. It would just have to look very unusual because we do a lot of the stuff publishers do already, and we do it really well.
Fair enough.
Nick has one more burning question.
Which one's that?
It's that one.
This one?
It's that one.
I cannot tell you about the time I almost set Northern England on fire, because that could get me in trouble with several entities, but I will tell you privately.
Okay, after the call. But for now, so I think... So this is the reason I followed you on Twitter in the first place. So I wanted to say my piece. When are you making that Waluigi game?
So, I'm not under NDA, so I can say this. And Nintendo hasn't given me money yet for anything. So they have not bought my silence.
No.
The secret...
But Nintendo, you can. If you're here.
You can. If you send me some money right now, I will not unveil these groundbreaking secrets. I'm about to bust the entire door wide open.
Put your bids in chat to buy Xalavier silence.
We are auctioning my silence.
Permanently.
If someone pays me enough money, I'll shut up. I'll become a drill. No one will know that it's me on the internet. It's just, yeah. Send the money, Devolver. My Venmo is available via DM. So the interesting thing about Waluigi is based off of so me and other developers who you definitely know the names of, who have done things that slapped and have also had magnificent commercial and creative success, have been for several years now, all in our own pockets, as well as sometimes together in super groups you would not believe, pursuing the Waluigi license. And Nintendo does not budge. Compared to basically anything else you mentioned, even in terms of Nintendo IP, they have two sectors. They have second party, which is, basically you're published by Nintendo, they own the IP or whatever else. It's things like snipper clips that work that way. There is, and they did also things like Cadence of Hyrule. So, like, it's possible.
That was crazy.
You would think that it's possible to have the Waluigi game. However, I've even known people to, like, be in like, Nintendo reps bantering back and forth. They're having a great conversation. They bring up Waluigi. Everybody's faces go dead. People pissed off that you brought up Waluigi. Waluigi is the most protected IP Nintendo has, and that is why we don't have a game yet. From even Nintendo. They don't bring it up. If you don't want to ruin your relationships with Nintendo, do not bring up, hey, by the way, I would love to tell you about my Waluigi game. Because they don't want to hear it.
He is just
They've dealt with
hornier, presence.
More successful devs than you. And I can tell you from experience, even if they want to continue working with you, which seems to fortunately be the case in our case, which is rad. The Waluigi game is the ball is in their court, and Nintendo is being super freaking weird about it.
No!
That is...
It's a forbidden game.
That was a far better answer than I was expecting, and more disturbing, so thank you.
Yeah.
If
you don't talk about
there's some great comments in the chat right now, and I do just want to encourage anyone, like,
super.
If you don't have if you have nothing left to lose, ask someone about a Waluigi game. Go up to Reggie Fils-Aimé, who has now left Nintendo, and say, "Hey, you think you could do Aggro Crab? We're doing some really cool stuff. We have several thousand people on TikTok who follow us. What about if we made a Waluigi game?" And see his face turn into a mask of anger. Do you know how large this man is?
I haven't seen him in real life.
Reggie Fils-Aimé is nearly like 7 feet tall. I'm not even joking. He's built like a wrestler. He's so wide. He will suplex you into the ground for bringing up Waluigi.
Oh no.
And return to the office the following day, and it's just ashes.
It's oh my wa Shindaru. But it's oh my wa Shindaru.
I don't want to be Oh, I get it.
I hope that was clipped.
That's awful, thank you. The whole VOD exists. Lulu's clipping as we go.
Well, I made this game, and
I think I blew out the mic.
I wanted a cease and desist, but they never. I would have framed it.
Is that a big Yoshi?
It's big Yoshi. It's a 3D print, so there's no legs or arm.
That's a beautiful big Yoshi.
Yeah, I made the whole model. I did a whole tweet, and then I gave up. I don't know why.
My roommates printed it though.
Surely the Fat Yoshi license is more accessible than the Waluigi one.
I legitimately would not be surprised. There's something about like Waluigi or his creation or his creator. Like maybe Nintendo doesn't even own Waluigi. Maybe
there's a
like
skeleton in their closet, right? There has to be. He's not in Smash.
Maybe he's a real person that they've just bought a license for to use his image.
He's an assist character in Smash, but like maybe like some person who wasn't like Shigeru Miyamoto or was just a contractor came up with Waluigi and they used it by accident, like when in Mad Men, Don Draper drunkenly uses someone else's idea and then they have to hire the kid. Like, I don't know what it is about Waluigi, but the only people who have been able to use him is Sega. And they gave him a really big dongus. They put him in a jockey uniform, and whenever you even see him in like just like bathing shorts, he's got a prominent package. I don't know what's does Sega have on Nintendo to get Waluigi and treat him in this manner, flying in the face of God and man, ass perfectly encompassed by the jockey suit. But there's something going on. There's something going on, and if you don't hear from me, Nintendo did it. Doug Bowser, head of Nintendo of America, did it to me personally.
Because you talked about Waluigi's hog.
I want to make a Waluigi game, even though I have burned the bridges in this conversation for a Waluigi game. Call me Nintendo.
I wanna follow up, but I am speechless.
I don't know.
Anything else I could tell you would be under NDA.
Should we do the lightning round?
We should do the lightning round. I think we're just about ready for the lightning round.
Okay. You got it pulled up?
I got it pulled up.
Okay. So
oh no! Shit! They're already showing. Wait, nope. No one saw that.
No one saw it.
I don't know if you've seen the show before, Xalavier. The way this is going to work is I am going to send you some usually they're bad reviews of your game on Steam. In this case, I went to Dog Airport Game, and there are only 5 bad reviews, and they're all they're not funny. We want to find the funny ones. So instead, these are YouTube comments from the announce of El Paso Elsewhere.
Interesting. Okay.
And
that's why the show is called Mostly Positive.
And that's going to be the final few topics we talk about. These are going to be our inspiration.
Yeah, this is your opportunity to clap back.
I'm really excited
Yo, what the
about this,
hell?
but also like in general, just like about the Dog Airport Game negative reviews. Like, I didn't think we would have a 93% positive rating on Steam. I thought for sure would expose to the Steam audience, like maybe our Steam forums would be on fire or anything else. I do know that there are specific, especially more experimental or strange work, because we aren't a super experimental game, but we look visibly like a shitpost until you play it, and then it starts to give you feelings. So the fact that we only have like 5 negative reviews and 73 total Steam reviews, and we've got thousands of people who played it, and like average hours played is really high, and like I think over 90% of the people who buy the game get through the tutorial zone, that's an incredible stat.
That is wild. Crazy.
So yeah, like we're really proud of, again, having the ability for different definitions of success. As of now, 87.6% of the thousands of people who have played Dog Airport Game just on Steam managed to catch their first flight. So they got past the tutorial zone, they spoke to a bunch of pups, they petted a bunch of pups. That's rad.
And for the 14% that didn't, fuck you. How dare you?
How dare you buy my game and start it and not get through the tutorial?
What are you doing? What's wrong with you?
But yeah, so I'm really interested in, especially because I've tried not to look at comments otherwise, just to see what people have been saying. Going to be very polite to them, just to aggravate them on purpose.
All right, let's see the first one.
All right, I've sent you the first one on Discord.
Let me see, where is it?
It's up in our DMs.
I'm getting sick of this designs, says Andrew LeBlanc 1 week ago. You could have made it look better than pixel art. Lame waste of time. Don't need to be playing RuneScape graphics again. That's delightful. I know what RuneScape looks like because I've had to look at it for reference stuff for a different project lately, actually. And the fact that we look as RuneScape remembered in their brain when RuneScape was this beautiful and limitless expanse that was limited, but also altered their perspective as a child because suddenly they were in an MMO and they too could grind forever for free. That I take that as a compliment.
Absolutely.
I think it is one. I mean, everyone remembers RuneScape. I think I do need to be playing RuneScape graphics again. You know, like that was a huge part of my childhood. But this guy doesn't. So.
The other one, the second one is quite similar, so I'm going to show it a little early. Because I do want to talk about how you feel about graphics, and then we're gonna get off that topic.
Poisonous Badge 1 week ago. Graphics 0%. Gabriel Gantz 1 week ago. Potato Max Payne. Just Frame Deep 1 week ago. Max Payne 1 but jank.
Did you really just find 3 in a row?
There were 3 in a row, so I just took them all.
That's brutal.
What's the so I do wanna talk about graphics and nostalgia, like just briefly, right? Because there's a certain amount of positivity and user base that you like capture by invoking that retro feel, right? And the era that you're sort of hearkening back to is definitely like on the come up these days. But a lot of people also don't feel that way, and especially the people that are like looking at new games trailers during E3. I'm curious, I guess, how much of that is a marketing decision versus this is just the way we feel it should be versus a production decision, and it's like this is what we're capable of producing in this time. Because I think there's always parts of each in the answer, and all are valid.
I think as far as my philosophical approach to games, I am eternally fascinated by the 6th generation of games, especially. That's the PS2, Xbox era.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, come on, GameCube.
There was also the GameCube.
Very important.
Is that a controller that is Smash Melee ready?
Yes. Back to what you were. Yeah.
I understand. So you have the GameCube, the Xbox, and the PS2, and that was a really interesting era for game design in particular, because we had made a bunch of 2D games, we had made a bunch of RPGs, we basically had worked on more than the first iteration of pretty much every major genre which we're still operating in today, including simulation and management. And the graphics technology at the time had a ceiling. So we'd worked in 3D, we'd worked in 2D, we'd worked in pretty much all the genres to some capacity, but we can pretty much only make faces that look like potatoes at best. What do we do there? What are the graphical styles we come up with? What are the game mechanics we come up with? It was the perfect microcosm of essentially what if the entire industry was in a game jam? Because everybody with this hard ceiling of visual fidelity available had to find interesting and intriguing ways to build things. Wind Waker came out during this time, right alongside the very first Call of Duty games. Most of the graphical styles we're still using today come from either an evolution during that time or that time specifically. And the reason why is because we had, with the question answered of how good can we make this game, the next logical place to think was, okay, so how do we make that interesting? How do we make that good within the scope and bounds that we have? So, in the jump to the Xbox 360 and PS3 era, even though you saw a lot of iteration and design changes there, so many franchises died, so many developers went out of business, so many branches of experimental, and I mean experimental in the sense of trying new things. So many of those things died out or languished or or suffered in some fundamental way because as fidelity increases, so does the exponential challenge and budget requirements to bring something to that fidelity. If you're wondering why walking simulators exist, if someone out there is wondering why walking simulators exist, it is because that is, you can walk around and look at things and hear a story and maybe click on things occasionally. If you're making things at very high fidelity and don't have massive amounts of money, and that can still be very expensive. That's why the walking simulator as a genre exists.
Right.
To address, we have the budget for 2 verbs. All the rest is art.
Right.
So
either your own or asset store.
So to bring this back and answer the question with that context, I've played a lot of PS2 and PS1 games, especially recently. They look better and worse than you remember. And very specifically, what we pursue for Strange Scaffold games, whether it's an Airport for Aliens Can Run by Dogs or Space World Organ Trading Simulator or El Paso Elsewhere, any of the things we haven't announced yet, is cohesion and vision. So, Dog Airport game, despite looking like a visual shitpost, has a very strictly defined style guide. And there's a lot of things that we even didn't put into the game because it would be more content or more assets or it would look good in its isolation, but it would break the world we were trying to build. And I'm a bit biased, but there's points where the game looks genuinely stunning. It doesn't look dissonant while you're playing it or when you see videos or streams of it, because making that game harmonious was more important to me than anything else. It also would have been a weaker game if we had 3D made all the dogs. So some people have asked, hey, could you make those 3D dogs? It's like, well, yeah, but they wouldn't have the emotional bandwidth and also the connectivity and also the ability to get unexpected nuance from interacting with a dog photo. Like that striking, visceral, tangible reaction if it was all 3D models. So yeah, we have even despite not having massive budgets for any of our titles, I am very much looking forward to a time when I can have health insurance. We are looking for what makes the best version of the game that we're building. And if that doesn't work for someone specific, then at the very least, we've also made this game under the conditions where it doesn't have to overperform, and we can be proud with what we walked away with at the end of the day. When I look at the smoothness and the fidelity of El Paso Elsewhere and the intentional style guide that we've been crafting over time and how it results in something that slaps and is Max Payne-y, but also very different, and also accomplishing a fucking Max Payne successor with, I'm sure, 1/10 of the budget. I am incredibly proud of what we're pulling off and doing graphically in all of our worlds. So, yeah, respectfully, I look at these comments and I'm like, yeah, I understand what you're looking for. You're looking for even being blown away the same way that you were when you first saw Max Payne and first saw that things could move in slow motion. For everyone else who gets it, though, this is probably going to be one of the most visually stunning and intentional games that you play in 2022. And I'm so excited for serving those people specifically.
Let's go.
Let's go. Oh, I love how you hype it up. That's so sick. Teach me how to do that.
I have one left. This one isn't strictly negative, but it's a little backhanded, and it's something I want to talk about. I can send this to you.
Let's do it.
Let's do it.
By the way, we're totally putting... We were supposed to tell you before the show, hey, in this show, we're going to give you bad reviews to look at. Is that okay? We forgot to do that. Thank you for being a good sport about it.
Instead of Max taking painkillers, he takes acid. I'm sold.
I want to talk about this is a bizarre comment.
A little bit, yeah.
Because first of all, your game does not look like an acid trip.
Excuse you, sir.
But second of all, I've received the were you on drugs when you made this comment more than a couple times. And like, fuck you. I can be creative without drugs. Sure, I do drugs, but that doesn't make me creative.
Why would I choose to be in Unity Engine while I'm on drugs? Seems like the least enjoyable thing.
That's the worst place I could possibly. If you think I'm coding on acid, you're out of your mind.
Dude.
Which isn't really what this guy is implying, but that's kind of. I was wondering about that specifically. Do you get that?
I mean, look at frickin' Skatebird, Hypnospace Outlaw.
Oh, Hypnospace for sure.
Pretty much everything in our career, especially like Jay Tholen, who was a creative director on Hypnospace Outlaw.
Mm-hmm.
Dropsy, which was another thing that people were like, I was so upset about how this was applied to Dropsy specifically, because everybody, even some of the marketing assets for the game, presented it as like, wild acid trip horror, can you believe this clown? Ah! But Dropsy is one of the most pure expressions of love and care in a world that does not share those feelings, and that you can personally, subtly alter through your actions in it, that I've seen in any video game ever. It single-handedly changed my perspective, changed my life. It is one of the best reflections of a Christian perspective. Jay is also a fellow Christian that I've ever seen in a game. It's about presenting love to a world that does not love you back and expecting nothing in return. And I got the acid trip comments, which is not bad, because usually they mean like, this is so wild. I understand where it comes from, and it's usually meant in some sort of respectful manner and overall in terms of talking about creativity, right? But it is sad because it heads off any further investigation of that.
Yeah, right.
It says like, oh man, this is so wild, it had to be made in drugs, instead of being like, this is so wild, how did you come to this? What were the inspirations? What are your influences?
Right.
What culminated in this result? It kind of cauterizes the entire potential discussion space there. So like when I read this, especially because they haven't seen anything more with the game than what they've seen here, I take it as complimentary. But I do hope that by the final version of the game, that there is that even that same person would look at it and not be like, acid, because then it means that we can have a conversation, and that's
Right.
what I really love about making games. Aside from all the other lovely and awful things about making games, is that you get to, depending on your design principles, you could have a very personal interaction with someone you will never personally know. And that is even and that begins with the first tweet someone sees, the first trailer. I am excited about the conversations that people are already having in and around our games and the conversations to come, because at the very least, it means that we are talking about something. The worst reaction in the world to a game that I'm working on could be that you play it and then you put it down and you have no thoughts about it ever.
Mm-hmm.
If you're saying something, even if it's negative, it has inspired some sort of reaction or conversation with you. And that's a lovely and exciting and very human thing.
Fuck yeah.
That rules. I would love to reach that level myself. I don't think I'm there yet.
No.
I want to see the thumbs ups.
I do like a thumbs up. It's good for my brain chemicals.
You should have pulled the comments from below the Airport for Aliens Killing Run by Dogs launch trailer.
Oh,
Those can
Really?
be So on our YouTube channel, it's called like airport like launch trailer underscore V1 underscore MP4. Like your dog airport launch call underscore alt underscore final V3 dot MP4. That's the literal title of the video.
I'm not gonna try.
And it's how we got on the front page of Reddit. And I didn't talk about this publicly because we got on the front page of Reddit, and God, was that did Reddit not like this trailer?
Oh boy.
Dude, I hate Reddit. I hate thinking about posting on Reddit.
Reddit immensely. One of the comics I wrote, because I find time to make comics as well, apparently, is Sherlock Holmes Hunts the Mothman.
Mhm.
That hit the front page of Reddit Creepypasta, and that was very nice, and people were very nice about it. But I didn't know that whoever posted this would use the trailer that was also kind of for the in-group already. This trailer is like an expression of developer launch anxiety to people who already get the joke in some regard. I would never send this to someone as the...
Oh, wait. Is it the
first.
one... Is it your pinned tweet?
It's the one... Yeah, it's the one where I go freaking nuts.
Like, do
And,
not perceive me?
Don't look at me?
Yeah.
Leave the thumbs up and an abyssal maw of feedback. Reddit didn't like that.
Reddit didn't. Oh my god.
They compared it to Justin Roiland. They got super aggro and the not crabby way that's super cool. Someone on the Steam forums, this is one of the funniest interactions that resulted from it, was, again, I understand all the concerns or upsets that this thing could cause. We did it intentionally. We enjoyed making it. It's fine. And hey, it exposed us to people who bought the game as a result of seeing that. One of the funniest things that emerged from that, though, is someone went to our Steam forums and said, hey, the guy who's narrating the trailer, he isn't, like, actually in the game, right? And under the developer account, I was just like, nope, exclamation part, and send. And he was like, cool, I put it in my wish list, thanks. And I was like, took off my mask, and I was like, it was me all along, Dio, I got you. You're going to buy my game on sale. You're going to hear me as the voice of the cats, and you won't even know.
Oh, you actually are in the game. You're not...
Yes, I'm the voice of the cats, and also some special creatures which you will meet. But he said, does this guy narrate the entire game? So I didn't technically lie. I was like, nope, he doesn't narrate this game.
Wow.
That's a real...
Damn.
That's a real, that's a backhanded bit if I've ever seen one. Like, would love to buy this game as long as you're not in it.
I'm imagining he opens it up, he just, like, hears you for the first time, Alt F4, refund on Steam.
Should have made him a build where an actual picture of you, like, follows him around.
A stock photo of you.
Yeah.
Because of the way the game works, this is cursed lore as we close up. Every dog in the universe knows where you are at all times and is looking at you, even when you don't see them.
Oh my god. I know how you would code that.
But by not turning off, by not defining a radius.
It's easier, yes. Nice.
Everyone just knows where you are.
Well, Xalavier, thank you so much. I think that is all our questions, basically. And like you said earlier, you know, the best thing that a game can be for you is have a conversation happen. And that's why we
make
have
me a lot of money. I need healthcare.
Yes, that too. So having you on the show like that, I mean, it's been just a great time. I feel like I've learned a lot about not just you, but like how video games are made, and that's very cool. I did not make a lot of money in the last hour and a half, but that's okay. Thank you so much, man. It's nice meeting you.
It was an honor talking to you again, Kaylin, meeting you for the first time, Nick, and getting the chance to chat with all of you. This is among the most excited I've been for any like podcast appearance after like the release of Dog Airport and like El Paso elsewhere, and it more than met my expectations.
Awesome. That's great to hear. We don't know what we're doing. We just want to be talking to devs because I feel like not enough of it happens.
True. So, and also thank you for showing me your GameCube controller. We're going to talk about the GameCube at one point, and it's going to be great.
You play it?
I play the GameCube regularly.
You play Melee?
I have never touched Melee because I'm
Whatever,
scared.
man. I like the other GameCube games too. We can talk about those. Do you want to shout out your stuff? I mean, you've been doing it for a while, but Twitter and all that.
So if you want to get your dog or cat or pet into the world of Space World Organ Training Simulator, El Paso Elsewhere via a painting in this haunted hotel, which will be splattered with blood as you shotgun a vampire into it, you can do that via Patreon. Support our studio's work. Every bit helps, and you get exclusive. Everybody voted that the next wave of content that would come for the work in progress build for Space Warlord would be flesh cryptid sightings. So I've been writing those, and those have been good.
Fuck yeah.
If you want to follow me for some reason, I do live in El Paso, Texas, and also you can find me at Rit Nelson on Twitter.
Do the
We
thing.
just released at Rit Nelson on Twitter. We also just released a game on Steam and Xbox Series X and S called An Airport for Aliens Currently Run by Dogs, which is a beam of light in a dark and incredibly trying world. Dogs don't care about money; they just give it to you. So buy now and keep an eye out for the stuff we're making, because it is only the first step. Perpetually, I feel like every day, it's just the first step in the next wave of things that we're going to be bringing into the world, and the next set of conversations we're excited to be having with the people who see our work.
The first step up a very strange scaffold. Have a good one, Xalavier. Thanks again for coming by.
Thank you for having me. Take care, folks. Bye.
Later.
Peace.
Do I actually get off the call, or how?
Yeah, I'll kick you. Bye.
Thanks.
There.
All right, cool. It's broken camera time.
Yeah. Okay, guys, that was the show. Follow the channel, subscribe if you have Twitch Prime, all that good stuff. I think we should go get dinner.
Dude, I am
respective dinners.
Starving.
Yeah. That was cool though. Thanks for watching, everyone.
That was a lot of fun. I told you Xalavier would like out banter us.
Well, that's the point of having a guest.
I was caught completely off guard so many times. I just was in stunned silence.
Stun locked.
Right.
Nice. That's what we want to do.
The best part
guys.
of setting up the fact that he was just lying about things early on is that now you don't know if he was telling the truth about Waluigi's cock.
I got over it. I started to trust him because he just has that aura.
Yeah.
Where when he's not actively lying to me, I will trust him.
Right.
So I've seen Waluigi's cock and it's massive. So,
Right. What you gonna do?
Keep seeing it. Okay.
All right. Peace out, everyone. See you soon.
Bye. Yep.